Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Sigma.
Today we're talking about 0200 Hours, which is a World War II skirmish game set in World War II, created by Grayford Algaze, is what I meant to say. And we've played a game of this on our live stream.
Yep.
We'll put a link up above. I have done an unboxing as well, so I'll put that link up above. And so there's a couple of things for you. And I'll put it in the description, and it'll probably be at the end. And I'll try and put it everywhere so you can find it. So we'll just do a quick little run through of this. Now, I have to say, we played that live stream 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we recorded this wash up then. But technology,
technical issues,
kind of balked it.
Yeah.
So
we're doing it now.
It's probably not quite as in depth because we haven't played it since then, and but we will do our best to cover what we think and enjoyed about the game.
So you can go and watch the stream to see the gameplay itself. We're not going to go into the specifics of the gameplay, more just our thoughts and feelings about the game, the mechanics of it, and all that kind of stuff.
Where shall I start? I really like
at the beginning.
The premise, which is the beginning, I suppose.
It is,
there aren't very many games where it's kind of like cat and mouse in the dark.
Most games when you're on a tabletop, when you can draw a line of sight to that other model, you can shoot it.
Yeah.
This game doesn't have any of that, which is very fun.
Yeah, I do like that, and I kind of like the fact that I don't know how many games. I don't think I've really played any games where weather or conditions actually make a difference in the game, like in Warhammer and most of the games I've played, you just don't even think about it. There are rules sometimes, but barely, and very quickly you get bored and don't play those rules anyway.
Or they so unbalance it for one side. It's like, oh, it's raining, so you can't use your arrows. And like, well, I guess my elf army's a bit neffed then, isn't it?
Or they're so complicated that it's like a proper real number crunching war game.
Exactly.
And this isn't like that at all. The system is really elegant with there's 2 shades of dice in the game. And they mean different.
One is for noisy activities, one is for quiet and stealthy activities.
And you kind of do roll both at once, but you kind of like it's like so you might be just a standard activity, but you accidentally do something noisy and you reveal yourself, or you manage to do it super stealthily and manage to hide. I really like that. I think that's really good. It's a little bit of a disconnect on the table because you can't play in the dark. Yeah, and so it's kind of like, well, I'm here.
I can see that.
It's like right over there, 4 inches apart or whatever. But I do really like it. I think it's really clever.
We did play one of the rules wrong in our game in that I was rolling. Yes. I was the Germans, and in the mission we played, the German forces mostly randomly sort of move around because they're sort of on patrols, whereas Robin was playing the paratroopers and they have to get across the board. So he had much more control over the direction he went in. The Germans in that scenario specifically have a much more random move. Now in later missions they can do things, they can have sort of like a set pattern and stuff like that. But in the game we played, it was much more random, and I wasn't rolling enough dice to make it slightly less random. Yeah,
effectively, he had the alarm was raised, so he was kind of.
But some of my guys were still just sort of like wandering around.
So he should have had more chance of being able to move in the best direction. So we did play that a little bit wrong, and I think that probably made the game look not as good as it.
Possibly a little bit. It definitely made the German movement much more sporadic and random. Yeah. Which, I mean, to an extent you want, because the Germans there, it's 0200 hours, it's 2 in the morning, obviously it's very dark. The Germans know there are some Brits around, but they don't know where, so they're trying to find them. The Brits, however, know the Germans are around, and they have more of an idea, and they're trying to sneak through the enemy lines. So it does make sense. I think the translation can be a little bit jarring sometimes, like when you know that there's a load of gunfire going off in this direction, that direction, and then the sentries then turn around and walk in completely the other direction.
And that kind of the way that we were playing, with you rolling less dice than you should have been, kind of
possibly the extra dice might have given me more chances to move in the direction I wanted, but then at the same time you have more German soldiers than you have paratroopers. So if I had too much control, I'd just swarm right into you. So
I mean, it's funny because I don't do a lot of army manoeuvres in the middle of the night. But if you do go out late at night in the dark, in the fields in particular, where there's no electric light, noises or whatever, you can't really tell where they are, how far they are. So it is very realistic in the sense that you are effectively just floundering around in the dark. And if you do put your torch on, then
you're going to get shot.
The English are just going to shoot you.
Yeah.
The game is very atmospheric. I think, like you say, in the standard scenario, it's maybe a little bit jarring. There's a lot of wandering about, but that in the other scenarios in the game that quickly goes. I think because there's very much more specific things. To start off with, there's no alarm raised, so the British have got to be as quiet as possible while the alarm gets raised. All hell breaks loose, which I quite like.
And another thing that's worth pointing out is this is a skirmish level game. It's not like a pitch battle thing like various other games like Warhammer 40,000. It's more sort of like your kill team level of stuff. So you don't have loads and loads of models. So you don't want it to be the situation where you're just sitting there shooting each other across the board. You do want that cat and mouse
to a degree,
play.
I would say it's what I would like the kill team to have been like.
Yes, I think so.
The rules are very simple, and a lot of it's card driven. So you have your stats on the cards, and you might get an upgrade for a fighter, and he gets
re-roll dice to hit or something like that.
He gets another card which does a bit of something, but it's not like kill team, which is like basically you need a degree in elementary bookkeeping in order to actually work out what everybody does, and you're trying to think, well, he's got that and he's got that, so he can do that, but only on a Tuesday. And that drove me insane about kill team. This is really simple. I love that it's card driven. I actually really like the dice. I kind of come round about bespoke dice for games.
Yeah.
It was to start off with, like Underworld and Star Wars Legion that uses them. Yeah. So I'm like, it's just a way of making you have to buy their dice, but you can do some pretty neat
MTP
things.
As well also uses it.
You can
then use the symbols to reference different things on different tables or to do different things. Whereas in general, it gets very confusing. It's like, if you roll a 6, then you can do this, or you could do that. Yeah. But you can do So I do think it works in that situation.
It definitely works. The different dice work, and I like the fact that the veterans, because they have different number of chevrons on the dice. The veterans, the more chevrons, the more successes they have. I think it's quite.
But then the chevrons also can get used in like the weapon stats for when you're doing attacks and things like that. So in some ways it's useful for how quickly you can do, or how easily you can do things, or how good you are at doing the things. But then it also becomes how strong the gun is, or whatever, that kind of stuff as well.
It's very cleverly done. I mean, the guy who designed this designed Test of Honor, which is a samurai game, which I haven't played, but I know lots of people really love. The miniatures, I was a bit dubious about the miniatures when I agreed to review it.
It's 28mm scale.
Yeah, when I agreed to review it, I was like, because we don't have a lot of time, and we often find, because I think we are spoiled by GW's miniatures, that sometimes the miniatures can let a game down.
And there's loads of models in it. You get 12 British SAS and 18 German sentries, 6 guard dogs, so you get quite a bit in it.
I was so pleasantly surprised by how great they were. So I'm not sure the company that makes them, War
Games
Atlantic maybe, I'm not sure, but they are fabulous.
And they're not over the top detail like GW models are. There's not millions and millions of tiny details, but there is lots of detail on there so that they do look defined.
Expressive, and they have their own unique poses, and they're quite a nice. It's just a really silly thing to get up about, but they're really nice solid plastic. Yeah, and they take
bendy,
paint,
rubbery plastic.
They take paint really nice, and they haven't like the pizzas. They don't have a lot of detail on them, but what detail there isn't soft at all. It's very clear, very, very easy to see, and when you're painting them, it makes them a dream to paint. I didn't paint them to any great level of detail, which you'll see if you watch the unboxing video, but a quick sort of base coat and a dry brush or a bit of wash, and they look contrast. They look really good.
And it doesn't matter if they're quite dark because it's all themed at night as well. So you can paint them. You can do some slap chop if if that's your thing, and you can really make them quite dark and grimy. And it just fits the theme. You don't have to worry about that at all. But you can also paint them nice and bright, vibrant colours if that's your painting style, and it's going to look just as good on the table. Yeah, so big thumbs up for the miniatures, a big thumbs up for the card mechanics, and some of the extra mechanics as you go into the game are really quite special. I think really interesting and unique that fit the setting. So you've got like searchlights and stuff, which add to that kind of tension. It does feel tense in a way that other board games don't. Well, one of the games we were playing, you were sneaking down the side, and some of my troops started to move over to that side, and you were like hemmed in, you were down behind a wall. It was like, I can't move, because if I jump over the wall, you're going to see me. Yeah. So I've got to stay here and hope that you then walk away. And there was another point where you were coming around, and it was like, I was so close to you. If you had just been like one more half-inch sideways, I would have caught you, but you managed to just slip by in time. And that just really adds to the tension. It's not just, I'm going to charge across the board with my best troops and club your brains in. It feels like it's definitely more it's a scenario-based thing rather than just a pitch battle setup.
Definitely, which I really like, and the scenarios are quite complex within the game, or they get more complex as you go along to give you a bit of variety. I don't really, as a rule, like World War II games. I like my medieval history games, but I don't really like World War II games. But this didn't feel like a World War II game. I think I wasn't interested in tanks and building up. I know you like tanks, but big armies and on that table and recreating famous battles. I wasn't not interested in that. But this little kind of skirmish,
because it's that skirmish level, it doesn't feel like that ridiculous large scale that World War II was.
I feel like I don't want to recreate World War II battles because we know what happened. Yeah. And generally, if the Germans won, I don't really want to play it because I don't really want to play a game where the Germans won.
Also, nothing against you Germans personally, more the Nazi Germans.
The Nazis.
Also, it's kind of like I know who won this. And I know people say, well, you're playing like alternate history timelines. Like, no, I quite like the way it went in the end, actually. It finished okay for me.
Yeah. But this doesn't feel like that because this is almost like a personal battle that could have happened in and around, because there must be
all the untold fights and
untold stories and little skirmishes in the French countryside.
My only fear for this game is replayability, because you get a certain number of missions within it and specific setups and stuff like that. The only thing that like pitched battle big war games have is that you can play the same mission but you just pick a bunch of different troops.
Well, there's some troop building. You have the car. Each force has a card, and each card has a number on it, and that's the number of points, and you can only like 20 points or whatever. So I think there's enough variation in there to do that, especially as you can have a little campaign mode and you get extra little bits of equipment. I reckon you can, and of course, I mean, what skirmish game is only the starter set?
This is true.
There's bound to be new sets. I think there already are new sets and new troops.
Additional troops and things like that coming out. Yeah. And also, let's be realistic. If you're playing these kind of games, you're going to get maybe a game in a week or something. Yeah. So there's still months and months worth of stuff there. So it's going to keep you going for absolutely ages.
Exactly. And I'm guessing they can add. I can tell I don't particularly enjoy the World War II aesthetic. I love painting the miniatures. If they brought out some Russian forces or some British forces, or whatever, or different, all sorts of
French soldiers, all surrendering. Sorry, joking.
Peter.
Yeah, you could go a whole gamut, couldn't you? Very easily.
Yeah.
But the way it plays, you could transport that into other time zones. You could easily have like Vikings raiding an English monastery.
You could. You don't. The base mechanics would work
exactly just
as well, because there's no. I mean, obviously you wouldn't have searchlights in that instance, but you might have firebrands. But yes, the base mechanics work, so you could easily add different settings.
But I think with this works so well with World War II, and there's so many different expansion ideas they could do in this. Yeah, there really isn't a need.
It would look great on a full table with full World War II series. We don't have that, and it looked pretty good with our medieval French village, German village terrain. Just to still look good. So, but
it's 28mm scale, which is nice. I was almost disappointed when we first got it to see it was 28mm. I was kind of hoping it would be a bigger scale because it's a smaller model count. Yeah. But after playing it a little bit, I thought, actually, given people don't tend to have a bunch of 40 or 50mm scale scenery and stuff, making it 28mm scale means that some of your fantasy stuff, some of your 40k stuff,
you can cobble it together.
Will all work. Yeah, will all work quite nicely, which means they don't have to worry so much about producing a bunch of scenery. No. They can do some, but they can concentrate on the models and the bit that really matters more.
Oh, and indeed the game.
And the mechanics, obviously the mechanics and stuff.
Yeah, I think obviously if you had to buy a whole load of new scenery, that immediately ups the buy-in.
Yeah. And to be honest, if World War II games is your thing, then if you don't have any 28mm World War II scenery, I'm sure you'd be gagging for a chance to get some, and this would be your chance. So.
Yeah, absolutely. My only other small criticism of it, the fact it's called 0200 hours makes it really hard to Google.
Yeah, or find on like hashtags or things like looking it up in the social media verse, which isn't obviously a criticism of the game specifically. It's just one of those challenges that game designers. I think
it's a brilliant name for a game. It's really evocative, and you know exactly what sort of game you're getting, I think. Yeah. But you get one about trains. No.
It's actually the 5:59 from Purley, but it's late. It's now at 0200 hours.
But it's difficult to Google. But that's really only a small thing. So that is 0200 hours night raids in World War II.
I love the box size as well. It's not a ridiculously oversized box, but you get loads of stuff in it.
You do.
You get all the tokens. You get obviously all the cards.
And you get a little plastic tray to keep all the cards and the tokens in, which is quite nice. Fantastic. So yeah, I do like the box. It's a Moonstone sized box.
It is. It's kind of like that. It's a more suitably sized box, I feel, than a lot of what gets produced these days. Yeah, a lot of them are massively oversized, but that's because they've got tons of plastic in. But the good thing about this is you don't need as many models, so you don't need as much plastic, which is better for the environment as well.
Absolutely. So check it out. Check out 0200 Hours. We'll put links in the description to where you can look at it now. I think you can go either via Grey for Now or the 0200 Hours website. I think they both take you to the same place.
Do let us know if you'd like to see us play any of the more of the scenarios. You've got specific scenarios that you've read about that you'd like to see us play through or anything like that.
Absolutely. I might have to paint some more figures. But yeah, that'd be terrible.
So that's 0200 Hours for Grey for Now games.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Bye.